Hi guys, welcome to another Road Pilgrim car review, and today we have the Audi Q8 Sportback e-Tron 55 on review with us today. That's a real mouthful, but anyway, this is actually a follow-up review to the review that we did on the Q8 e-Tron, which is the standard SUV, and that was in the 50 spec. This is the 55 spec. So that car that you saw previously in the other review, that was actually the base model, the most affordable one in the range that you can buy, and this is actually the top of the line range that you can buy, which is the Sportback 55. So for today's review, we're gonna go through some of the exterior differences, jump inside and see if there are any differences. I think primarily with the rear headroom, and then of course we're gonna go take it for a drive and see how the car performs on the road. But before we get on with those things, if you are a driver in Singapore and you're thinking about selling or consigning your car for the best price possible, be sure to check out the link in the description box below, because through that link we will be able to provide you the best possible valuation and quote for your used car. It's free to inquire, so if you're interested, please take a look at those links, and if not, let's get on with the review. Alright guys, so jumping straight into the review, this is the exterior of the Q8 Sportback e-Tron 55, and I think it's in a very nice blue color. I have a soft spot for blue color cars. My own car is a blue color car. But anyway, there are some differences in the way this Sportback is styled. I mean, obviously it's a different body style altogether, and I'll get to that when we get to the rear of the car. But for those of you who missed the earlier review, let me just go through some of the exterior upgrades that this Q8 e-Tron has over its predecessor, which was just called the e-Tron. But anyway, here you see a redesigned front end altogether. So there are no longer matte chrome finishes. This is in pure black, it's all polished out. And this grille, this all blacked out grille, actually houses a new Audi logo, which is a two-dimensional logo here. And this is a bit more minimalist and a bit cleaner, and I think easier for Audi to kind of iron out that corporate identity throughout the various platforms. There is also a redesigned front lip, so to speak, and at the front here you actually get nice bits of aero. These are real, so they actually open up into the wheel, so they sort of channel air into the wheel hub. So if you can see here, yeah, see, you can actually see the other side, just a little bit of it at least. So these actually work, and I think all this is done in line with increasing the efficiency of the Q8 range of cars. And essentially with this new bit of aerodynamics within the body kit itself, I think the drag coefficient of the Q8 has also decreased by a little bit. So all this makes the new range of Q8 e-Trons a little bit more efficient than its predecessor. Now down the side, we've got 22-inch wheels as standard here. And this is up from the 20 inches that is found on the regular Q8 e-Tron, the regular base model. And it does look like it has upgraded brakes as well. The calipers look absolutely massive, but they are not Audi branded per se, so I'm not sure exactly why the calipers are so big, but any case, I think this is also to cope with the added weight from the larger wheels. And then of course on the B pillar you get the new Audi branding as well. So in future, so on this car you can see Audi Q8 Sportback e-Tron Quattro. But of course this will also be done on other cars in the Audi range in future, not just on the Q8. So this is something that you can look forward to in the coming range of Audis. Now at the rear end, this is where all the magic happens for the Sportback, because this is primarily the difference, and I think this will be the deciding factor between people purchasing a regular e-Tron or Q8 e-Tron or the Sportback. So obviously as a Sportback, this is sort of like a coupe style SUV. It's got a sloping roofline, and in the 55s you will see this very interesting so beside the Q8 there is this red emblem here. So at first glance, what it makes you think of is that this is a S-Line car, and all around the car you do see a little bit of S-Line trim as well. Later inside the car I'll show it to you as well. But nowhere in the name does it say that it's an S-Line car, so it's not marketed as a Q8 Sportback or S Sportback or anything like that. It's just called the Q8 Sportback e-Tron 55. So I'm not entirely sure how we should kind of label this car and what sort of performance expectations we should have of this car as well. Because in the previous generation, we actually did have a e-Tron S Sportback, which was a proper S-line car with the triple motor. It was an absolute beast of a vehicle. But the range was a little bit questionable on that car. I'm glad to say that in the Q8 range has been significantly improved. In fact, I think this 55 will do up to 600 kilometers on a full charge if you drive it nicely. Of course, if you're gunning it all the time, you definitely will not get that sort of that sort of mileage. But in any case, this is the exterior. Of course, you still get a full light bar, but it looks quite a lot different from the regular Q8 e-Tron SUV, the standard SUV. So now what we're going to do is we're going to jump inside and take a look at the interior and point out some of the differences. Alright, so I am in the cabin of the Audi Q8 Sportback e-Tron 55. And as you can see, this is the interior. So as I was getting into the car, there was actually a door sill emblem, sort of a plate, and that had S-line on it. And this steering wheel has an S-line emblem on it, and the seats also have S-line emblems on it. But nowhere else in the car or nowhere in its name does it say that it's an S-line car. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that, or make the assumption that this S-line is more of a trim level inclusion rather than a performance related inclusion. So you're not really saying it's an S-line car, but it's like a S-line trim. But then again, this car does go from 0 to 100 in 5.6 seconds. So that is also not a slow car. So anyway, if Audi, you're watching this, if you want to clarify this, please go ahead in the comments. I think that'll be wonderful for people to know. But for those who are not familiar with the Q8 range at all, let me go through some of the things with you inside the cabin. So full digital driver's display, and the electric range of cars, all the Audi EVs actually have a specific menu that you don't get on the petrol variants, and this is of course a EV specific menu which showcases your charge on one side, the power usage on the other side, and then your speedo is right in the middle. And then of course to the left and the right of you, you've got customizable options of what you want to display. Currently now it shows the date and time and consumption, but of course you can change this to your fancy. Of course you can change it to maps. If you got Apple CarPlay plugged in as well, or Android Auto, then your song information can also show up on this digital driver's display. Up front, in front of the driver, there's actually a very simple what you call it, heads-up display. But this is a very simple one. It just shows your speedometer, doesn't show anything else. So it's a pretty straightforward system. In fact, if no one really told you it was there, you might actually miss it because it's actually quite small and unassuming. Okay, like if you look around the cabin, generally speaking, what you get is a very futuristic cabin, and Audis are all like that. In fact, I think the Q8 e-Tron does share a lot of similarities with other Audis in the range. It's not a very unfamiliar interior, so to speak. And then you've got your dual screens, one for your infotainment and one for your air conditioning, which I think is pretty cool because I'm not a fan of air conditioning controls that are embedded within the infotainment unit. However, that said, if you are the kind of person that's really freaked out by fingerprints, then you're gonna have a really good time with these two screens, because now you got two screens to catch all those little fingerprints on your hand. But anyway, I think all that is personal preference. Everything here is quite intuitive, it's quite easy to use. Even if you've never been in an Audi, you've never driven an Audi, you jump into this car and you should be able to find your way around all quite quickly. I would say it's one of the more intuitive systems. Not the most stylish system in terms of its interface, because I think now a lot of the cars are already moving towards like 3D widgets, but this is still sort of like a 2D button, so to speak. So I'm pretty sure in the next iteration of Audi cars or the next iteration of MMI, they're gonna update this. But for now, this is the way it is. So generally, if you look around the cabin, you'll find that a lot of the materials don't look particularly flashy, and I think that's also in line with the Audi demographics, because I think a lot of people who look for Audis prefer a more subtle, understated kind of look, and this car is the same thing. And so you don't get a lot of flashy chrome bits, and you don't get a lot of flashy colors as well. Everything is built to be quite modest, but build quality is something that Audi does extremely well. So when it comes to how things are built, generally speaking, Audi panels are put together very, very nicely, and that's something that I thoroughly enjoy when being inside an Audi. And for those of you who don't know, I used to drive a Audi A4 B8, and I used that car all the way until it was 10 years old. And even then, most of the things in the cabin held up really, really well, and I think that was kind of like the point where I was convinced that the Audi interiors were built in a pretty solid way. So glad to see that it's still in play today, that sort of attitude towards coach building and interior design is still in play. Because this is an S-Line car, of course you got S-Line seats. These are not particularly sporty, you know, they're not like figure hugging, but they do have these additional side bolsters here. So but they are kind of set quite far apart. So if you're a smaller person, I mean, even for me, I'm a pretty big guy and it's not really hugging me yet. Maybe for the Caucasians, maybe it would hug them. But if you're anything smaller than me, I don't think you will feel the side bolsters at all. Which, you know what, could be probably a good thing as well, because in Singapore we're not really chucking the car around to the extent that you need side bolsters support. That's pretty much it for the front cabin. There is, of course, this very uniquely styled gear or drive selector. I'm not entirely sure why it has to be built this way, but it's pretty cool. Looks pretty nice. You got cup holders, storage space all around the car. Generally, no complaints here. Now, with a Sportback, the concern is always rear headroom, because the sloping roofline, in the pursuit of aesthetic excellence, somehow always seems to hinder the rear passenger's headroom. So let's go jump in the back and check whether or not the Q8 Sportback e-Tron 55's sloping roofline actually affects the rear passenger. Alright, so climbing in, I think that definitely there is a little bit of a smaller aperture to the door that you have to be aware of, otherwise you're gonna dink your head on the top here. But it's not terrible. It wasn't really it wasn't really ridiculous as you would see on some cars. And now that I'm inside, actually headroom's pretty generous, and I think Audi has found a way to kind of start the sloping roofline from a little bit further back so that you actually don't get affected in terms of headroom. And although that might seem like you're just pushing the seats forward, if you look at my seating position now, this driver's seat is in my regular driving position. I'm 175 meters tall, and this is the amount of legroom that I have. This is absolutely comfortable. I just jumped out of a X5 test car recently, and actually this is more generous, which is hard to believe, right? But it is. It's I think the space utilization is just a lot better, and it just feels a lot more comfortable here. Seat height is really good as well. You're not dangling, you're not sitting in a fetal position. Some of the seats in other cars are really low, but this one's really comfortable. So if I take a more natural sitting position for longer journeys and I lean back a little bit, then you know my headroom's even better. It's not even affected. Not even the side look. Left and right, some of the cars actually protrude in a little bit, so but this car is perfectly fine. And speaking about long journeys, obviously you've got built-in blinds here, which I think is such an understated feature. I love built-in blinds. Ask anybody with kids, they'll tell you that they love built-in blinds. And aside from built-in blinds, I also love B-pillar air conditioning, because these tend to just hit you in your knee. Although I must say that for the Audis, For the Q8's rear aircon vents, they are actually positioned quite high, so they actually do have quite a clear shot to your torso rather than to your knee. And this climate control is actually dual zone as well, so not only can you control the temperature, you can also control individual blowers. So this is pretty high-end stuff. You don't often get so many functions in a multi-zone aircon system. So usually at the back you just get temperature at most, right? But in the Audi Q8 you actually get blower speeds as well, so I think that's really well done. As a family size SUV, you definitely get ISOFIX points as well. These come with the removable covers so they don't get in your way when you're installing your car seat, and all that is very good. So I think the Q8 Sportback passes the headroom test exceptionally well, which is a really great piece of news, because if you're in the market for a family size SUV and you want comfort, but you also want the aesthetics of a sloping roofline and a coupe style SUV, not many coupe style SUVs will be able to pull off what the Q8 just did, which is to do a sloping roofline without compromising headroom of the rear passenger. So I think that's a really good job. But aside from that, let's jump back into the driver's seat, because I'm interested to find out how this car drives. Alright, so to get things started and to get some facts and figures out of the way, this Sportback 55, and actually even the regular SUV in a 55 powertrain, this will do about 400 horsepower, and this will get you from 0 to 100 in about 5.6 seconds. So if you compare the 55 variants to the 50 variants, essentially what you get is 70 more horsepower. You get a larger battery pack, which is packed at 114 kilowatt hours instead of 90 plus, and you get 0.4 seconds quicker acceleration time. Honestly, it doesn't sound like a lot of difference, and we're gonna go put that to the test now. We're gonna go drive it around and see how we feel. But I think with a car like that, it's not just about power, because honestly, I question the wisdom of anybody who buys an SUV to chuck around corners. So as a family size SUV, as a luxury vehicle, I kind of feel like the priority of the vehicle should still be comfort. But in any case, the entire range of the Q8 range, or the e-Tron range, has actually been improved quite a bit. So I believe they have better battery technology now. I don't know exactly in what way. I mean, all that is a little bit of a mystery to us journalists as well. But in any case, Audi says that they have improved the battery tech, which I would assume is true, because given the roughly the same amount of kilowatt hours, so the car now, and compared to the car before, has a battery size that is quite similar, but the range is significantly better. So I would imagine that comes down to a few things, but the primary thing being battery technology. The other thing as well about the new Q8 range is that the car is supposed to be more aerodynamic, and as I've showed you earlier, this car does have some updated bits on the front that make the car a little bit more aerodynamic, to channel air to the correct places, so on and so forth. And last but not least, Audi also says that the car's energy recovery system seems to have been improved as well. So it recovers energy a little bit better, and it does coast a little bit better. And I can attest to this, because on the way here to our filming venue, we were driving along the highways, and I must say that the cruising capabilities of this car is really top notch. In fact, when you take your foot off the accelerator, sometimes it feels like the car doesn't even want to slow down, it just keeps going at that speed. And I think all that is really remarkable. But just driving the car a little bit here, I must say, on its feet, the 55, especially with these 22-inch tires, I think they feel a little bit heavy, or heavier. what I like, in fact, it doesn't feel like a more powerful car. I would say that first impressions is that it feels quite similar to the 50 in terms of power. And although that car has less power, it does have smaller wheels, and I guess that kind of balances it out. But are two wheel sizes worth 70 horsepower? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's an equatable conversion, or I'm not sure how that makes you feel as a consumer. But I would say that although this is the more powerful car, it doesn't necessarily feel the most powerful, at least not in slower settings where you have start-stop traffic and you're accelerating off the line. In fact, I quite enjoyed driving the 50. I thought that was a really well-balanced car. And if you're interested to check out the review of the 50, please click up here. The review is already up, so you can check that out. However, that being said, I'm sure if I really step on this, the car should display some differences. So let's do that just now. Right, let's do that right now. Okay. I'm gonna be honest here and say that I don't really feel the difference. And I guess that 0.4 seconds just really doesn't make that much of a difference in this kind of setting. But what I did realize, heavy car. What I did realize when I was going around that fast bend is that obviously this car handles a lot better. It's got wider, bigger wheels. So I think in terms of the grip and the overall body control, road manners, this is definitely quite a bit of a difference from the regular 50, the regular SUV with the 20-inch tires. But I must also say that this is significantly less comfortable. And not because this is an uncomfortable car, you know, don't get me wrong there. This is an exceptionally comfortable car. It rides on air suspension, by the way, adaptive air suspension. So there's nothing wrong with the rides. It's very comfortable. But the ride quality in the regular Q8 e-Tron 50 with those 20-inch tires, that was superlative. That was excellent. One of the most comfortable cars I've ever ridden in. Better than any Mercedes that I've driven. And that's saying a lot actually in a world where, you know, suspension technology has improved so much. Almost every car is comfortable today. But that particular car, the Q8 e-Tron 50, that was super comfortable. So I guess that brings us to sort of the consideration point and the conclusion of this review, because like I mentioned a little bit before this, you know, I question the wisdom of anybody who buys an SUV to chuck around a corner. Which also means that if you're looking at a luxury electric SUV like the Q8 e-Tron, I think the reasonable thing to expect is that the car is comfortable and very comfortable for you and your family, and you know, something that's going to work very well for long distance journeys, just as well as it works in town. And I also shared a little bit in previous reviews that I think family size SUVs are the perfect format for electrification, because petrol versions of these cars tend to be very thirsty, which makes electrification quite a bit of an improvement. And then because you're not really chucking the car around and you're not going for exhaust notes, having a electric drivetrain just helps to make everything more comfortable, more smooth, more quiet, which I would say is the primary, which is the top priority for a family car like that. So with that, I'm going to do something that I rarely do on reviews, which is to kind of pick a winner, so to speak, a winner. But I'm going to say that the Q8 e-Tron 50 is probably my preferred car. I would much prefer to drive that car than this car. Not because this is a bad car in any way, but just because I think for a car like that, I want the most comfortable car as possible, and the Q8 e-Tron 50 does that for me. Of course, you can buy a Q8 e-Tron 55 as well, but those don't come with the same wheels. I think those come with larger wheels as well. So that might be a compromise you have to make if you want the aesthetics of the vehicle. But as much as I prefer the Q8 e-Tron 50, I cannot deny that this is the better looking car by a mile, because the rear end is just so pretty. And the good news is that, you know, if you are a driver who, or if you are looking for comfort, or at least a reasonable amount of it, and you don't mind, and you also want some aesthetics, then essentially the Q8 e-Tron or Q8 Sportback e-Tron becomes a really good option for you as well. So I think either way you can't lose with these range of cars. I think really well done. Range has improved, efficiency is good, cars are really comfortable, and just so happens that they look really good as well. So all in all, I think that's an excellent job. If you have questions about the Q8 Sportback e-Tron 55 or the other cars as well, you can put those questions in the comment section below. I will do my best to answer them when I do have some time. And if you have enjoyed this review or found it useful in any way, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel, because we've got new videos coming out every week. It would be wonderful if you could join us for those reviews. If you are a driver in Singapore and you want to sell your car for the used price, if you want to sell your car or consign it for the best price possible, please check out the link in the description box below, because through that link we'll be able to provide you the highest possible quote and valuation for your used car, and it's free to inquire, so why not have another quote, right? If you're interested, please click the link in the description box. And with that, please take care, stay safe, and we will see you next time. Bye bye.